for watching Numbskull News, and today we're going to talk about the ACC. I've made several videos dealing with the ACC before, but I think it's apropos, if that's me using the word correctly. Who knows? Uh, but I think in light of what's going on in the Pac-12, Colorado leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 12, I think it's time to revisit this ACC thing and my speculation, which is a controlled demolition of the ACC. Now, what is a controlled demolition? Well, if a company or a person wants to take down an edifice, a building of some sort, you want to control that demolition. That way you don't destroy things you don't want to destroy. So, same kind of thing holds true for the ACC. Now, what does it mean for the ACC, this controlled demolition? Well, you see there's a lot of court battles that could happen. FSU apparently is gearing up for some court stuff. I wouldn't doubt it if Clemson or Miami or any others of that Magnificent Seven want to join in trying to fight a grant of rights. That's tens to hundreds of millions of dollars they'll have to spend to do that. Believe me, ESPN is going to fight also. That's tens of hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees that they're going to have to throw out there. And, even if none of that happens and this thing lasts till 2036, what then? Then the big schools can go where they want. All right. And everybody else, it's a mad scramble for survival, just like what's going on with the Pac, like what happened to the Big 12. You would think the ACC is looking at those two conferences and is saying to themselves, do we want to go through that? Now, there are principles, the actors within this, to get this thing pulled apart. Each one of them have a different reason or reasons why. All right, so let's go down the list. Okay, first is the big schools in the ACC. Why would they want to agree to this? They want to get to one of the two big conferences and make all the money. Now, FSU and Clemson, they're not hurting for cash. But down the line, once you get into the 2030s, that's when things can be a problem. All right, so if a mid-level school in the SEC or the Big Ten want to come after your coach when their contract is up, well, they could probably offer more money than you. That's when things get sticky and hairy for FSU and Clemson. They got NIL money. They got all that. These are two very rich institutions. Miami, very rich institution. Like I said, they're not hurting for cash. But eventually, that money difference between them and those two big conferences will manifest itself in multiple different ways, and they don't want that to happen. Not to mention, it's kind of embarrassing when you're going to recruit and you find out, I don't know, that the LSU coach or the Georgia coach or Ohio State's coach or whoever has said, yeah, you want to go there? They don't get as much money. There's not going to be as much opportunity because of money. They can use that against you in recruiting. So that's one of the reasons they want out. Probably the biggest reason. You have the tweeners in the ACC. Your Virginia Techs, your NC States, Virginia, schools like that. They have this daydream of getting to one of the two big conferences. Now, if it took till 2036, those schools pretty much know they will find a landing spot, even if it's the Big 12. They will find something. They're not worried about it. But they do want to have an opportunity to make their case to get into one of the two big conferences. That's why I think that they would like to do that now. Now, the small schools, 2036 is scary. All right, so if you're Wake Forest, you're Boston College, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, even though they're in a big, huge, location in Georgia, that's still the University of Georgia Bulldogs territory, not really Georgia Tech's. So, those schools, they see 2036 as a nightmare right now. Because all you got to do is look across the country at what Oregon State and Washington State is going through. All right, their only lifeline is the Big 12, and that's a long shot. Their most likely thing that's going to happen to them is the Mountain West. That's $6 million a year versus 31.7. That sucks. So those schools on the East Coast in ACC land, they're looking right at the American Conference, and they don't want that. They don't want that. They want to be on this power level, the autonomous level. Another principal player in all this is ESPN. Now, why would ESPN want to do this? Because at 2036, they got no say in, what teams go where. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, there's some big brands in there. UNC and Duke bring huge basketball ratings. They don't want to lose all that. All right, they want to control it in some kind of manner. And plus, they don't want to spend big money in court. So, and you got Bob Iger, who has been out there talking about, hey, we can sell off some of our stuff. There's other ways we can make money. Do we need all of this crap? They don't. They don't need all the content or the businesses that they have. All right, so they're interested in kind of parsing some of that out. This is one of the ways you can keep content plus sell some to someone else like a Fox. And speaking of Fox, why would they want in on that? Well, to expand with a big brand inside of the ACC territory, which is right next door to SEC. That's getting into Florida is huge for recruiting, huge for your market. It's a win-win on every level for Fox to get in somewhere in there. Another principal player, of course, is the SEC. Why would they want to do this? Well, they would love a couple huge brands out of there. They would like to expand, I think, but they're going to be very picky on how they do it. Florida State, Miami, and Clemson are all in their territory, all in their region. They don't want to go out. They want to be regional. They don't want to go flying across the country to play baseball in the Northwest or some dumb shit. That's not what they're about. So all of that fits in their geographical footprint with those big schools, and they can expand in a good way, bring in big-time brands to play their big-time brands. That's what they're interested in. And that's about the only thing the SEC is interested in when it comes to expansion. The next principal player in this would have to be the Big 12. It would have to be the Big 12 because you have to find landing spots for everybody. In order to dissolve this conference peacefully and cheaply, all right, you got to make everybody feel good. Everyone's got to have a place to go. All right, so that's where the Big 12 comes in. Now, why would they want to do this? All right, they've solidified themselves with the 12 they have now, 13 with Colorado. They're going to be adding a few more teams from the pack. But if you want to really solidify yourself, and I'm talking as competition for the SEC and the Big Ten, you'll never get to their money level. But as far as power, influence, and stroke, you could be on their level. Yes, you can be. As the premier basketball brand in the country, no doubt about it, and an exciting brand of football that, does not have the huge brands, but does have parity. And just ask the NFL how powerful parity is. If brands are an atomic bomb, then parity is basically a neutron bomb. Maybe you can't see its effects, but it sure kills everything in the radius, doesn't it? It's a powerful weapon. So yes, parity matters. And then there's Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I keep hearing, well, Notre Dame ain't going to want out. Notre Dame doesn't want out. They want to get $75 million a year on the independent side of things in football. Now, if they can get control of all 12 of their games, that would pretty much assure them getting the $75 million. So if Notre Dame can get its $75 million from NBC, selling all 12 of their games to NBC, then they can stay independent, and that's what they would prefer. Now, the rest of their content that's in the ACC, their basketball, their non-revenue sports, they would have to find a home for those. And, I don't think the Big Ten, at least from what I heard from people like Greg Flugar, the Big Ten would not be interested in just basketball and Olympic sports. I know they got the hockey, but they want Notre Dame football. They want everything. Or, they don't want to just do a partial deal. So that's out. I don't believe the SEC is willing to take all of their baseball and gymnastics and track and field and have to go up to Notre Dame and go out of the way to Notre Dame just for those sports. I don't think they have any interest in that either. They would consider it if it was Notre Dame football with it, but I don't think they're going to consider it, just basketball and non-revenue. However, the Big 12 would. I believe they'd be stupid not to. It's a gigantic brand. No, it's not the football. Although you could probably schedule some things with Notre Dame football, because now you would have a synergy if the basketball and the non-revenue sports came to the Big 12. Makes a ton of sense, especially if you're getting ACC teams, which you're already playing and competing with. It kind of works out for them. Now there's the how. How does this work out? Well, I can imagine there being a room. In this room, you got the Big Ten, you got the SEC, you got the Big 12. In this room, you got ESPN and you got Fox. Now, ESPN, they're the ones that are going to be ruling over this room. All right, because right now they control all that content until 2036. All right, so this is their property essentially. So they're going to run the negotiations. They're going to ask those three conferences to give us your top 5 of teams you would like out of the ACC. So all 5 teams will do so. And there's going to be a lot of similarities on those lists. ESPN will collect the lists of the 5 preferred choices for each conference. And they're going to, call over Fox and say, hey, come here. Because you're going to fund part of this. So we're going to kind of work this with you. All right, let's go ahead and start with the Big Ten. Let's go down their list and see what they like and what you're going to want to pay for. And then we'll go down what the SEC wants and what we're willing to pay for. The Big 12 is an interesting part of this because I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of those tweener schools that, yes, the Big Ten and the SEC may have interest in those general areas. However, Fox and ESPN, who's paying for all of that, who's paying for the content, are going to say, okay, there's Virginia Tech. All right, let's say Big Ten has interest in Virginia Tech. Fox is going to say, we like Virginia Tech. When they're good, they are really good. Okay? Sometimes they're good at basketball too. Great brand. Like the area. Like Virginia. But do we want to pay a premium, 60 plus million a year, just off the media rights? Do we want to pay that? Or do we slot them into the Big 12 where we can still have some of that content, pay far less money, because ESPN and Fox both put in, all right, they both partner up and pay everybody in the Big 12. So neither one of them are paying the full share, the full ride to go to the Big 12. ESPN pays the bulk of it. Fox, pays the 33%, whatever that is, 30%. So if you're Fox, you're like, nah, I don't know about that. However, FSU to the Big Ten, oh, yeah, we'll pay a full ride for that. That's a lot of ratings. FSU versus Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, works out beautifully. We'll pay for that. However, ESPN will be like, whoa. There's brands here. One of the reasons that we are doing this is because there's brands we don't want to lose. Maybe Florida State's a brand that ESPN does not want to lose and is willing to pay for to go to the SEC. But you have to understand that ESPN is also trying to offload a little bit so they don't have to pay as much. They're trying to save, a little bit of cost savings. And so would the Big Ten just be happy pulling Miami out of there? Maybe. Clemson, I think, it's a foregone conclusion. They're going to the SEC. So it's going to be a difference between those Florida schools. And I know UNC fans, especially UNC fans, they feel that they have a predestined, preordained right to be in the SEC or the Big Ten. However, if you're ESPN and Fox, do you want to pay $60 million plus, or however much money they're going to make in the future? You want to pay that premium price for UNC football? Respectable program, but it's not a brand. It draws nothing. The ratings are mid at best. Nothing on the football side of things says premium. All right. Basketball, absolutely. It's a primo brand. But this, most of the realignment, most of the consolidation, what is it about, folks? It's about money. What makes the most money? By far, football. There's other value that UNC brings, obviously. There's different basketball, international stuff. UNC is a very valuable brand. But it's not a foregone conclusion that the Big Ten and the SEC, number one, even want them. But even if they do want them, that their media partners will pay the cost, pay the freight. Because the Big Ten presidents aren't going to, send around the collection hat to collect money to bring in UNC. Nor is the SEC. They're not going out of pocket to bring in UNC. Nobody is. It's going to have to be paid for by the media partners. And I'm willing to bet both ESPN and Fox would love UNC content, especially that basketball, that primo basketball. Throw in Duke in there as well. They would love to have that content, that basketball content. They don't want to pay the top dollar for it because the football doesn't justify it. But the money inside the Big 12 does justify it. That is the spot. And there may be schools like UNC or a few others that say, no, we don't want any part of this if it's the Big 12. So it will be made clear to them by ESPN, by Fox, and by the Big Two conferences that, look, don't screw this up. Don't hold it up just because you think you're going to come here. You will never come here. That's what they will be told. Fox and ESPN will both say, well, we'll never pay for you to go to those conferences. Those conferences say, hey, we're not bringing you in. We're not going to pay your way in. You can't pay your way in. And the media companies aren't going to pay your way in. This is not an option. And it will never be an option. Your only option is to go independent or go to the Big 12. It is up to you. Unless you like the American or Sun Belt Conference, that's also an option. But the two top conferences will not be an option. So when it gets broke down to them like that, I think they'll know what to do. They'll make the choice that's presented to them, which is really not a choice. Now, I know UNC fans won't agree with that. Oh, no, they can do it. Okay. You don't fight the big media powers as the pack has found out. You don't fight them on that level. You secure your future, number one. UNC wants to secure their future, make sure they're going to be fine, just fine, and being in the biggest, most powerful basketball conference with a badass commissioner who's finding all kinds of revenue streams. No, maybe you don't get into the Big Ten. Maybe you don't get into the SEC. You don't get that big paycheck. But what you do get is legitimacy, autonomous level, power level. You stay in the conversation. That's what's most important to schools like that. The money will be there. The payouts will be there. Will it be as much as the other two conferences? No, but way more than all of the other group of whatever. Way more than the FCS schools. You're on another level. You're still on that high level. And some things are just going to have to be good enough. And to tell you the truth, I don't think UNC would mind sharing a conference with UConn, Kansas State, Baylor, Houston, Arizona. Some of the best basketball in the country by far, and having two of the biggest, most elite brands coming into the biggest, most elite conference makes nothing but sense. And for their football, to be able to, UNC football in the Big 12 would have a fighting chance to one day win the conference, to make a tournament, to make the college football playoff. There's a road, there's a pathway because of the parity. See what I'm saying? They don't have a chance in hell in the SEC. They have no chance in hell in the Big 10. They're screwed. So the Big 12 would actually give them an opportunity to raise their ceiling and raise their value on the football field that the other two conferences wouldn't even give them. And who the hell knows, maybe 20 years after that, maybe 30 years after that, UNC grows to such heights because their football has grown to such heights that they do get in to one of the two big conferences. Or maybe 20, 30 years down the road, the Big 12 is such a big freaking deal that there's really no reason to leave. You're making all the money you'll ever need. Maybe it's 10, 15 million less than the other two conferences, but is that enough money to really leave for that? No, probably won't be at that point. There's too many good things about the conference. And that's just the media rights. The Big 12 will have bigger NCAA payouts for sure than those other two conferences. And we'll get plenty on the college football playoff side of things. But we'll see how it plays out. And I know I broke this down before. I just kind of wanted to take my time and do it again. So that way, nothing really, I try not to miss anything. Try not to overlook anything. I'm trying to give you the full picture of why the ACC on every level would like to do it, why the media partners would like to do it, why the conferences would like to do it. Everyone has their reasons. And I think what it eventually boils down to is that the Big Ten will take, it's not going to be, everyone says 4 teams to the Big Ten, 4 teams to the SEC. Horse shit. The SEC will take 2, and that's about all they'll take. I'll be shocked if it's any more than that. The Big Ten may only take 1 team. Y'all. May only take 1. Because how much does Fox want to pay for? And if you ask me, there's only 3 brands out there worth a premium price. The SEC and Big Ten premium price. That's it. No one else is worth that money. You cannot show me on a spreadsheet, on a chart, on a pie chart, on anything that says any of those other schools are worth that. Now, I believe the rest of them, you can make a case are worth what the Big 12 make. That's why I feel that those 3 schools will go to the big conferences, and then everybody else, and then, Notre Dame will get their stuff back. They'll just go independent, stay independent, and get their money. And then the final 10 schools will essentially merge with the Big 12. That's the best way to do it. That's the only way to do it. That's how you manufacture a controlled demolition of the ACC. Now, you can fight it out in courts for God knows how long, for however much money. But why do that when y'all can come together, find a way to break this thing up and manage it right? Because the ACC does have content that ESPN needs. beyond the three big brands there. Everybody else is wanted, is needed. And that's why the Big 12, I think, would do that merger in a minute to get their hands on UNC and Duke, but also get into some of those territories. And they know that the big media companies need that content. They didn't need the pack. That's what we're finding out. Now, they would like a few of those schools to join other conferences so they can get some of that content. But they don't need lock, stock, and smoking barrel all 10 teams. They don't need it out of the pack. As a matter of fact, they'd just rather just take a few teams and that's it. But the ACC is something a little different. They all have value. That whole conference has, to me, way more value than the pack ever did. Now, some people will say, well, the remaining 10, they could just stay together and get their own TV deal, which should be equal to the Big 12. In 2036, it's not going to be equal to the Big 12. Because in 2036, the Big 12 would already have came back to market and gotten a second bite of the apple, along with the SEC and along with the Big 10. In 2036, you are screwed at that point. You're screwed at that point because now the Big 12 offers a lot more money and a lot more value than whatever remains of the ACC. Because Florida State, Clemson, Miami tear their ass. And now there's no shot for any other school to possibly get into one of the two big conferences. And now the Big 12 is making significantly more money than they do right now. So you don't want to wait till 2036. Because then you become the pack. All right, and then you got teams, because here's the thing. ESPN will treat you the same way. They're gonna lowball the hell out of you. Fox will lowball the hell out of you. And I know the streamers will be around, maybe in bigger force by then. ESPN is going to be one of those streamers. ESPN Plus is going to be huge. It already is huge. It makes a ton of money. It's going to be way bigger then. What about Apple? We'll see where Apple is at that point. Can't count on it. Amazon will probably be around. Maybe they'll cut you in a little something, but look what happened to the pack. Don't think that same thing, or roundabout same thing, won't happen to the ACC. This is why a controlled demolition of the ACC is a preferred option. And it could start as early as next year. So, everyone who wanted this realignment stuff to be over ain't going nowhere. We're right in the middle. We're right in the middle of it. Oh, so much fun. So much fun. Damn it. Can't wait for the next stick of dynamite to go off. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap. I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.